This is Cruise Radio.
I cruise a lot, and I always sail with travel insurance. You should too. Get a free quote today at tripinsurance.com.
Here we go.
Broadcasting from the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida. This is Cruise Radio.
Hey, how's it going? My name is Doug Parker. Thank you so much for making Cruise Radio a part of your day. Very happy to have you here, my friend. Coming up this week, a review of Carnival Conquest and one of their sea cruises, those adults-only sailings they launched geared towards the casino folks. A review of that, a 9-nighter to the ABC Islands. Dan Skilken, president of tripinsurance.com, drops by to answer a couple of your questions. And as always, staff writer Richard Sims on deck with cruise news. Hey, Richard. But first, staff writer Richard Sims with cruise news. Hey, Richard.
Good afternoon, Douglas.
Good afternoon. We're kicking things off this week with Carnival Cruise Line issuing a third warning against a popular pastime.
Doug, it's no secret that I like to gamble. I spend a fair amount of time during any given cruise in the casino, usually playing slots. But I've also over the years taken part in what Carnival would consider a illegal pastime. It's pretty low key as these things go, but like a lot of other cruisers, I've been known to get together with friends and play a dice game known as 1, 2, 3. It's a lot of fun. I've also played low stakes poker for cash outside of the casino. Usually people who want to do these things find a quiet spot on the ship, like a restaurant that's not being used or one of the lounges, and they play their little games. But Carnival, via brand ambassador John Heald, is making it very, very clear that this is not allowed. Any form of gambling for money, no matter how low stakes, is not acceptable on the ships, unless, of course, you're playing in the casino. Now, I'm sure Carnival is totally right in saying that these games violate, rules or laws or, some maritime thing. But let's be real. The bottom line is that if you're going to lose money, the cruise line wants it to find its way into their pockets, not those of your fellow travelers. And it's worth noting that while Carnival is the one who's been, really vocal about this over the last couple of years, like I said, this is the third time John Heald has issued this particular warning. They are by no means alone. I was on Norwegian Gem, I think it was, a few years ago, playing 1, 2, 3 with some friends when a crew member was sent to break up the game. Like somebody saw us, and then like one of the lower crew members, I think it was a waiter in the restaurant we were sitting in, saw what we were doing, went and got, somebody higher up in the ranks who came down and very quickly shut our game down. Now, you didn't hear this from me, but there is a way around this particular rule. Instead of playing with dollar bills, play with toothpicks. And each of the toothpick represents $1, and then you can go, to someone's stateroom and settle up afterwards. But I think you summed it up really well on the news podcast or the news video when you said something to the effect of if Carnival, if you're not betting in the casino and the money, Carnival wants that money going in their pocket, not yours. So,
what did I say? It was ad lib. It was something like, if Carnival ain't dealing, you ain't betting.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it was. That was a very good quote, and I mangled it terribly.
And speaking of gambling, I'm sure you'll be doing some of that on the ship in our next story.
You bet I will. See what I did there? Anyway, I just went to the bank this morning to get the cash I'll be using to win a small fortune on Brilliant Lady. Even as we speak, that ship, which is the fourth lady ship in Richard Branson's Virgin Voyages fleet, is making her way to New York City, where she'll be doing several sailings before relocating to Miami. I'll be on her second sailing out of Miami and doing a 5-day trip to Bermuda, which honestly, given all the things that I want to do and explore and eat on this ship, 5 days is definitely not going to be enough. It's my first time on Virgin, so I kind of want to, see as much as I can. This ship features a new restaurant called Rojo, which will feature Spanish tapas, which I love tapas. That means basically lots of plates with little things to sample. There are also several new shows on board, which are being rolled out exclusively on this ship. What's interesting here is that while other lines seem to be cranking out new ships left and right, the future's a little unclear where Virgin's plans are concerned. They have definitely confirmed that this is going to be the last of this class, so it's the last of the lady ships, which consists of 4 total. There's Brilliant Lady, Resilient Lady, Valiant Lady, and the original, which was Scarlet Lady. So this is the last of those ships, but only time will really tell if they eventually decide to expand the fleet and do maybe another class. They have said they are not interested in doing, the big ships like Royal Caribbean. They're not interested in competing in that. But will they do another class of ships, or will they just stick to their already announced plan of sort of modifying some of the previous ships so that they're a little bit more in line with what this fourth ship is offering? Who knows?
And it looks like Virgin isn't the only game in town for those who are seeking an adults-only cruise.
Yeah, Carnival recently has been dipping its toe into the water with what they're calling sea sailings. That's SEA, which stands for Sailings Exclusively for Adults. This week, John Heald announced that folks who are interested in booking one should do so quickly because they're going to close up signups at midnight on September 15th. These have caused quite a bit of chatter around the internet and in his comment section on his Facebook page specifically. For example, people are asking why, if this is such a popular idea, Carnival's not doing more of them, which of course they very well may. And if they're as popular as Carnival says, shouldn't they have already sold out? Which is a good question, and that is something that is going to become a little clearer in one of our next stories regarding celebrity. But I think right now, there are 4 options available, not including 2 transatlantic sea sailings. They range between 7 and 10-day itineraries, and they come with some nice perks. They're being done on older ships. They're being done like the 2 that are available right now for booking in my particular category are the Conquest and the Glory. We don't know yet whether they will continue doing these. These sailings right now are for like February and March of 2026, but it seems pretty likely. That seems like a good use for some of the older ships. And I like the idea that they're not doing it just out of one port. There are like 3 or 4 different ports that they're doing these sailings out of, which makes sense. You don't want to say, for example, let's say they decided that during the summer they were going to do adult-only sailings on the Firenze out of New York City. That might be a limited market. But if you say, we're going to do one sailing on Firenze, we're going to do one sailing on, the Glory, we're going to do one sailing on whatever ships you're going to do, by spreading it around and doing it at different ports, you sort of increase your ability to sell that ship out as opposed to it all being out of one port. And in fact, I'm actually interested in hearing the review that you're going to be chatting with someone with later in the show, because it is a sea sailing. It is an adults-only sailing on the Conquest out of, where'd you say it's out of?
Yeah, Port Miami to the ABC Islands. So, it's a good interview there.
I'll be interested to hear that, see, how much they noticed a difference other than there being no children on board.
Meanwhile, the folks at Celebrity Cruises got some good news this week.
Yeah, this is earlier I referenced selling out, and this is a case of that. So earlier this year, the line announced that they were getting into the river cruise business, and they're doing it in a big way. They're going to, over the next few years, launch like 10 ships under the Celebrity River Cruises banner. We know now that the first 2 ships sailing under this banner will be the Celebrity Seeker and the Celebrity Compass, both of which are designed to sort of shake up and reinvent the sector, which is kind of, honestly, river cruises are thought of as rather stodgy. I feel as if what Celebrity is doing here with their new river cruise ships is sort of akin to what Virgin Voyages did when it threw itself into the market. They're saying, they don't have to be all the same. We can do things a little bit differently. And they're actually borrowing elements that have proven very successful on their Edge class of cruise ships. This week, early sales opened for those who had pre-registered, and they sold out in like a few hours. Interestingly, this was really before much was even known about the ships. Since then, we've learned a little bit more. Like, the ship is going to kind of reinvent the magic carpet idea, which is on the Edge class ships. On those ships, on the big cruise ships, it's a platform that rises up and down on the side of the ship and can be used for a variety of different purposes. Here, they're going to be morphing that idea into what they're calling the Magic Edge, which will be dining pods hanging over the side of the ship, featuring menus based on the destinations that they're going to be visiting. And in a potentially controversial move, they're also going to feature staterooms on the river cruises with some version of the infinite veranda, which they introduced on the Edge class ships. Why is this controversial? Well, on the Edge class ships, people either really like them or really hate them. It's basically a glass wall which slides down to turn the entire room into a balcony, or, as some have complained, depending on the weather where you're sailing, it can turn the room into a sauna because, of course, once that window goes down, you're getting all the heat from outside, but your air conditioning shuts off, just like if you open the balcony door in a regular stateroom on a lot of ships. So, it'll be interesting to see how this works on a river ship. Another way they're shaking things up is with dining. Most river cruises still use the very simple set dining time with usually one main restaurant. Celebrity is saying they're going to have 8 dining and bar options on these river cruise ships, including their very popular martini bar. The full itineraries haven't been released yet, but we do know they'll be sailing on the Danube and Rhine rivers, which makes sense because those are very, very popular river cruises. They're going to be doing 7-night sailings, including, and I think this is going to be the most popular and is going to sell out the quickest. It is a sailing that's 7 nights out of Budapest and will visit the various Christmas markets. I mean, that just seems like, I want to do that, Yeah. I really don't think I can do it work-wise right now, but I would love to jump on one of these new fancy river cruises and sail to the Christmas markets.
And it looks like a new tax aimed at cruisers has led the cruise industry to filing a lawsuit.
If we were heading into Judge Judy's courtroom, the announcer would declare this case as that cool music played in the background. Dun, dun, dun. He'd declare this CLIA versus Hawaii. This is part of that ongoing story we've been covering regarding Hawaii wanting to impose some pretty severe financial penalties on cruise ships docking at the island. This is just the latest example of a popular port pushing back against the cruise industry. And in this case, the Cruise Line International Association, which is basically the lobbying arm of the cruise industry, is filing suit to prevent the tax, which could be as high as 14% of your prorated fare, from going through. If I'm being honest here, I can't quite help thinking this might be a big mistake on the part of the cruise line, because I think what they're hoping is that Hawaii will blink and say, okay, we'll back it up and we'll charge less or something like that. But if they don't, if this goes to court, that's going to put the cruise lines in the position of having to go into a courtroom and answer under oath questions regarding their impact on the environment and why they shouldn't have to, pay a fee that basically is looking to be about $100 million a year to help counterbalance some of the damage, whether to the environment or the ports they visit. And this is, like I said, we're specifically talking about Hawaii. But if they lose this argument in court, that could open them up to a lot of other fees being imposed from other ports who have the same basic issue. So I don't know. I don't know how far I would want to pursue this if I was the industry.
I guess we'll see how much those lobbyists are really worth.
Yeah, exactly. Because they're making a pretty penny. Hey, maybe that's what we should do. Maybe we should become lobbyists.
Yeah, because it's not cheap to become a member of CLIA.
No, not at all. And let's face it, CLIA does a lot of good for the industry. They outside of John Heel, nobody knows how to spin better than CLIA. So they definitely earn their money.
All right, staff writer Richard Sims, as always, thank you, my friend. We'll try to get you one more time before you set sail on Brilliant Lady. If we don't, though, have yourself an awesome cruise.
I will, and I can't wait to tell everybody about it, both it being a new ship. And there's a lot of people in our listening audience who, despite them being around for a few years, still don't really get what the Virgin product really is. And I'm one of them, and I'm looking forward to finding it out. Meanwhile, I actually need to get on the phone with Dan, who is coming up in the next segment, I believe, to talk about my cruise insurance and make sure that I'm completely up to date with that.
Thank you, Richard. On to Dan Skilken, president of tripinsurance.com. A couple of you have sent in emails and news stories over the past couple of weeks asking when and how trip insurance would come into play. So Dan is fielding those questions. Hey, Dan.
Thank you for having me on. You cannot believe the number of people that contact us or email us just looking for help on information on travel insurance and to get help with claims and things like that. So it's always a pleasure to help out in every way we can.
I appreciate it. The first story is when Carnival Panorama listed a couple of weeks ago. Some people got hurt, not seriously, but if it was worse, or if someone did get hurt seriously, would travel insurance kick in here? And if so, what would it cover?
Okay, Doug, this is a great question because when you're looking at this from a travel insurance standpoint, you got to remember that the cruise ship is a common carrier, just like an airline. And so if that cruise ship cannot continue to move, cannot continue to provide service, and it has its own itinerary, just like an airplane would travel from one city to another, the cruise ship is traveling from city to city. And if the cruise ship, for instance, has to cease operations and you're stuck on a particular island, travel insurance will not only cover the loss on the balance of your cruise if you're not happy with the refund that the cruise company might give you, but they'll also cover the extra cost to get you home. Because a lot of people are not necessarily buying their airline tickets from the cruise company because they can save money if they buy them direct. Mm-hmm. And so now they're stuck on an island. How are they going to get home? Well, travel insurance under trip interruption covers you for the extra cost to return home if a common carrier cannot continue to travel or can't take you to your destination. It'll also cover the extra cost to stay where you are, waiting for an airplane, an available flight. So you got the extra cost of the hotel covered. It'll cover the loss on the cruise, less whatever the cruise line might give you. But also what's important is it'll cover the cost of any lost excursions. So if you have prepaid for excursions and bought them not through the cruise company, but bought them yourself, if the boat is disabled in any way, you're covered. Now, anybody that was hurt in this, and it sounds like, looking at what was going on, yes, some damage to TVs and things like that happened, but nobody was seriously hurt. But if you were hurt, you are covered under your travel insurance plan for medical. And that medical you could insist that the boat transfer you to an island to get treatment if you're not happy with the treatment on board the boat. You just need to coordinate that with your travel insurance company. There's always a telephone number that you can call to get medical assistance.
Dan, let me take it a step further here. Like a couple of instances we've seen over the years where like a Carnival ship in St. Martin, they had to fly everyone home on chartered planes, or happened in Grand Turk too a few years back. If you could catch air out of Grand Turk or St. Martin and you did not want to go on Carnival's chartered jet, could you just book your flight home with travel insurance, or because Carnival was offering you the charter, you'd have to take it?
No. You are not required to take Carnival's charter. The travel insurance company will cover the extra cost to get you home up to the coverage limits. And you just have to take a look. In some particular cases, depending upon how the plan is written, you may be covered under trip interruption, and that's covering you for the balance of the loss on your vacation plus extra cost to get you home up to the coverage limit, which is typically around 150% of your declared trip cost. Mm-hmm. But sometimes the language in the plan is going to cover this under misconnection or travel delay. And then there may be lower limits. So you want to take a look at that because that limit might be, let's say, $1,500. But if the airline ticket was cheaper than that, or you wanted to pay the difference, you absolutely do not have to necessarily take Carnival's alternative transportation.
And another medical emergency in the news last month, quite a big one, made a lot of headlines here on Icon of the Seas, one of the world's largest cruise ships. A passenger was going down the drop slide, and a piece of the acrylic paneling broke free from the slide, and it really tore his back up, and it actually sliced him open pretty good. In a case like this, how would travel insurance come into play? Because a lot of things can happen when you get sliced open with nerves and such.
Well, the first thing is that, God forbid this happens, but, if my understanding is this guy was sliced from knee up to the middle of his back. Mm-hmm. If that had cut into fat or muscle, now you're starting to get to be a pretty serious injury. But even if the number of stitches required to close that up, exceeded 20 or 30 stitches, I might be inclined to want that to go to a hospital to see what's going on there, and maybe even have a plastic surgeon stitch me up. And so the first thing I do is call the 800 number, the toll-free number that you get with your travel insurance plan. Ask for medical assistance, tell them what's happened, tell them that you'd like to be medically evac to the nearest hospital because you have doubts that the onboard physicians can handle this. It just depends. I would not want to look like Zorro from my knee to my back with a huge battle scar like that if there was any way that somebody could help patch me up and try to minimize scarring. So, but I even worry about muscle tears and things like that. So travel insurance will cover you for an accident, even if it was the cruise ship's liability. And clearly, if the cruise ship covers your medical bills after the travel insurance has already paid your medical bills, you have an ethical obligation to pay back an insurance company if you've been covered for a loss. And the travel insurance company may ask, do you believe that this may be the responsibility of the cruise ship company? And they'll note that on your claim. And then they'll pay the claim. They'll cover you, but they'll go after the cruise ship company for reimbursement. So you're covered with the travel insurance company. They'll provide medical evac. They'll get you to the nearest hospital. They can get you proper treatment if you've got to head home. He's lucky that all he did was get cut. My understanding is that the split happened, 45 feet up in the air. Had he fallen through a hole and hit the deck, he could have really been hurt. He's fortunate, but yes, travel insurance would definitely cover your medical bills. They'll help coordinate, and they'll give you some weight behind telling the cruise company, hey, I've got somebody here on the phone and they are approving medical evac. You need to help me make that happen. And there was a recent story in the news where a guy's wife had a heart attack on board the ship, and they wanted $15,000 cash to medically evac her. And that would not have been necessary if he had travel insurance and he called the travel insurance company. They would have gotten her to safety. Typically, the air medical evac is an air ambulance. They have all of the equipment plus a doctor and a nurse on board to support your life just the same way you'd be supported in an emergency room heading home.
Dan Skilken, president of tripinsurance.com. If you have a question for Dan, drop us a line, comments at cruiseradio.net, or you can email Dan.
Absolutely, Doug. They can send us an email at support@tripinsurance.com. We're happy to help them, even if they're not buying travel insurance from us. We are here to help in any of their questions on how to get the best deal or best value, or just trying to understand their coverage options.
Thanks again for your time, Dan.
Doug, thanks for having me on.
The world is constantly changing. Your place for news is still the same. Online and on demand at cruiseradio.net.
A big question we get at Cruise Radio is, how do I know if I need trip insurance? Simple answer. If you're getting on a plane, taking a road trip, or getting on a cruise ship, you need to have travel insurance. Hey, it's Doug Parker from my friends at tripinsurance.com. Not only does tripinsurance.com protect your vacation investment, but it also gives you peace of mind in case anything were to go wrong on your trip. How do they do it? They offer 3 different types of trip insurance policies. Good, better, and best. One policy for every vacation budget. But it doesn't just stop there. They're up to 40% lower when you shop around on other comparison sites. Plus, tripinsurance.com offers 24-hour customer support before, during, and after your trip, online claims assistance, and travel alerts to let you know what's going on at your destination. But find out for yourself. Check out tripinsurance.com.
Have a tip or a lead on a news story? Let us know. Email tips@cruiseradio.net.
Baher just returned from a 9-night cruise on Carnival Conquest. It was one of those sea cruises, so it was adults only, a casino cruise, I guess you could say. It went down to the ABC Islands out of Port Miami, and he joins us to talk all about it and what it's like on a sea cruise. How you doing, my friend?
Good, Doug. How are you?
Good
Great
to have
talking
you
again.
on here. Yeah, like a lot to unpack here with the ABC cruise, the 9-nighter, and it being one of those sea cruises. So what we'll do here is take a step back and get some pre-cruise thoughts. You're over in Texas. You decided to fly over to Miami for this one. This is one of those sea cruises. So they launched these like about 2 or 3 months ago, where it was supposed to be for like casino offers, but then other people could also join in if they wanted to, but paid full price or what have you. So kind of unpack this sea cruise concept first.
So most people that I met on board, they did get some kind of a casino offer. Most of them, if not all of them, are casino players. It seems like there's two kind of offers that went out. One is like an actual full-blown casino offer. People had like extra free play, anywhere from, I don't know, $200 to $1,000 of free play, also onboard credit. But there's also others. I didn't get one of those offers, but there's also others that is like I think it's called like a sea bingo offer. I got that one. It is definitely a discounted rate compared to like booking it as like without any offer at all. And I didn't get any onboard credit or free play with that.
With it being a bingo offer, that means what, you play bingo every cruise and then you're in the database?
I don't know. I was actually surprised that I got this. I did play bingo before. I don't know if it was tied to that, or I did also play in the casino before, but I'm not a heavy casino player, so I don't know if it was tied to that. Maybe if it was like I did play a little bit in the casino/bingo, so they sent some of those, some of those offers, but not as strong as the regular casino offers. I am not quite sure. That visibility wasn't there for us at all.
Was this on your radar for a while, or did you see the sea cruise pop up and decided to, hey, I got the offer, I'm going to take it?
Yep, that was pretty much the second one. About 3 months before, I just, because I normally book well in advance, but when I got this offer about 3 months or so before, I checked the price, and knowing, since I cruised quite a bit, I kind of have an idea of what a 7-day, 9-day would cost and all that, and it's definitely cheaper than normal. So I kind of looked up my calendar, and I figured this is sometime that I can actually take it. And I just, I haven't been to these ports in about 10 years actually. So I just figured it was a good time to I didn't want to pass it up.
All right. So you make your way from Texas over to Florida, to South Florida, Port Miami. Any pre-cruise time before you're sailing?
Yeah, I got there the evening before. My flight was a little delayed. I got there around 7 or so. I had a hotel in downtown Miami, so pretty much somewhere on First Street. Once I checked in, I just walked to, I think it's called Bayside Marketplace, hung out there, had some dinner there, walked around, looked around, and got back to my hotel, late that night, just getting ready for cruise the next day. That was pretty much it.
Yeah, there is this pizza place over there at Bayside called Ben's Pizza. And so I went there and I got 2 slices, and the guy was like, "Are you sure you want 2 slices?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." Yeah. So I was starving, right? So he gives me 2 slices, but it's really like the size of one pie, because one slice is a half a pie. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I just know I could eat all this, but I'm going to have to because I bought it."
Yep, I saw that. I didn't eat there because I had already eaten somewhere else, but I did see those, and I was like, those are some humongous slices.
Yeah.
So yeah, for sure.
It was time to board Carnival Conquest the next morning. How long did it take you to get from the curb to the ship, and how was embarkation?
Yeah, overall it was very, very smooth. I got to the terminal I had my 10:30 slot, which was the earliest slot, 10:30 to 11. I got there literally right at 10:30. I was in the waiting area to board at 10:36. So it literally took me 6 minutes to go through check-in, security, all that stuff, and that even includes like a quick restroom stop. And from there, I think they started. I had the first boarding zone, A1 or A01. Essentially, I boarded right after the suites because I didn't have a suite, and I think they started calling around 10:50, and I think I was on board like a minute or two before 11 o'clock.
With these sailings being the casino sailings, and I'm sure a lot of guests do have status, platinum or diamond, do they waive those early embarkation privileges?
Not quite. It was a little confusing in the terminal. There apparently was a platinum and diamond lounge, but I guess it filled up pretty quickly. When I got there, they kind of just directed me to the regular waiting area, which wasn't really that busy. Then I asked someone and they said, no, there's only one there's no platinum and diamond. But then on the Facebook group, people were like, oh, I'm already waiting the platinum and diamond. So it was a bit confusing. I didn't care either way. I knew we were going to be boarding in less than 30 minutes anyway. Once we went on board, they did allow us to open, the cabins. Oh yeah, the cabins were not ready until 1:30. Being Platinum Diamond, I just was able to open the door, just go to my cabin, drop my backpack, and I saw my cabin steward there. I just said, hi, hey, I just introduced myself real quick, and I'm just dropping my backpack. I know the cabin's not ready. Actually, it was right around 11:10. My cabin was almost ready, and then she was so nice. She was like, oh, hi, and all that, and then she kind of looked behind her back, like, okay, my boss is not here. Okay, let me give you my here's your cabin key. Here's your cabin key. But I'm like, I'm not gonna come back until 1:30 anyway, so just take your time. But she was super sweet. But yeah.
All right, so you're on the ship. You drop the bag off. What were your first impressions of Conquest?
So yeah, we boarded on deck 3 near the atrium. So as soon as you get in, you see the atrium. You see those glass elevators, which I personally like. I've been on this ship class before, like all the Conquest class between the Freedom, Glory, Valor, Liberty, Freedom. So I knew my navigation around it. It is a fairly old ship. I think it's like 23 year old now. I think it's built in 2002. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say really negative things about it, but at the same time, I kind of knew what I expected. It's I did like some of the decor around the atrium. Like if you look up at the sky, at the ceiling area, or like in the on promenade deck, they have like, certain like lights that are flower looking. But yeah, I knew this class of ship. I knew there was no way around to get around deck 5, not going through the casino, going from one side to the other side. So if you are sensitive to smoke, you'd have to go usually up like the deck 6 or down, basically down and across if you want to avoid that deck 5. So
this is a casino cruise. So do they roll in extra slot machines? Because I know that sometimes when Holland America does these, they bring in they close a lounge down and fill it with slot machines.
They did not for ours. There were some rumors that they were going to, but they didn't. It wasn't. Mm-hmm. The casino was packed. It was packed, and there's a lot of complaints that people wanted to get on a slot machine. They couldn't get on a slot machine. People were even waiting next to a slot machine, just waiting for someone to leave so they can hop right on it. They did add a few tables, like blackjacks or whatever, next to the casino, kind of near where the coffee shop is. I think maybe 4 or 5 tables there. But yeah, the casino was pretty packed, even, all the way through midnight or even after midnight. So some people who couldn't get on would have to go around 2 a.m. to try to play on the slot machine.
That is so wild, right? That boggles my mind. When I was on Carnival Luminosa in Alaska, early June, it was the same way. It wasn't a casino sailing, but it could have been, because you could not find a table or a slot machine until after midnight. It was locked up every day from when you left port until they either shut it down because you were going into port, or if it was after midnight. Yep,
and I even joked with some friends that we were sitting in playing bingo, I think, and one of the things, whoever won bingo or one of the bingo winners was and they were like, okay, we're going to give you whatever, say $300 or whatever it is, and $200 of free play. And I kind of joked with my friends saying well, yeah, assuming you can even get a slot machine in the first place. So yeah. Do you ever have any luck playing bingo on board? I never win. Yeah, I have never won a single time so far, but got close a few times, but no, personally, no. What did you think of the stateroom? I mean, as you mentioned, the ship is over 20 years old. Wear and tear, up to date. Give us the lowdown. Okay, I had an ocean view cabin. When I first booked it, I booked an interior, but it was only $150 more to pay and upgrade it to an ocean view, so I just went ahead and did it. It was on deck 2 aft near the elevators. Plenty of storage space, especially being solo in the cabin. No USB or USB-Cs or any plugs near the bed. There was only one plug outlet under the mirror. Of course, I use that adapter thing to be able to add extra, charge your phones and watch and all that stuff. There was another outlet just pretty standard in the bathroom, up on the top right corner shelf. If you want to use it for charging a razor or your toothbrush or something. Shower was the shower curtain, not a shower door. I personally had some issues with my cabin. Not to say like everyone's going to have these issues, but I had three different issues. One was my shower temperature was lukewarm, and no matter how much I spun that dial, cold, hot, it did not make any difference. Even that red button that you press to make it hotter was broken. I let my cabin steward know, and they got it fixed right away. I basically left the cabin, told her, and then when I came back like an hour or a couple hours later, it was already fixed. My shower also, where you can obviously hold that shower head, like detach it from the holder thing, but that holder was broken because every time I tried to put it on there, it would just fall. So they were able to fix that too. Third issue, which I thought maybe was related to just being on the first day, but now it continued. My cabin was freezing cold. Like no matter, even if I put the temperature dial to like all the way to the hot, it would still be freezing cold. I told guest services and they got maintenance and they found that my vent was like fully open. It was broken. It was fully open no matter that dial didn't affect it. So fixed it. And it worked fine since. So some issues with the cabin, but they essentially fixed it right away as soon as I contacted them.
All right, let's talk about the food on Carnival Conquest. We'll go to the Lido Deck Marketplace first, up there by the pool where all the food is and goodness. How was the food this sailing, and did it ever feel too crowded for you in there?
The Lido Marketplace, I mainly only ate breakfast there on port days. And lunchtime on some sea days, because I did really sea day brunch in the dining room on sea days. Sometimes I would eat in Lido, other places not really in the buffet. I mean, sometimes I guess maybe in the buffet a couple of times, but my experience there was really for breakfast on port days, and you were always able to find a seat. The seats are typically all taken, unless you go there super early when they first open. If you're trying to find a seat by a window, usually those are taken up first, but that's expected. But it wasn't the case where I've had some other sailings where like I had to like circle around the dining room several times to like find a chair or ask a crew member to help you find a table or something like that.
With this being an adults only cruise, could you tell like there were no kids on board, and was there a sense of we'll say serenity across the Lido deck?
Oh yeah, for sure. Not just the buffet area, but also on the Lido deck. You don't like the pools are not overrun by them. The hot tubs are not overrun by them, and not just the Lido deck. Like even you don't hear them running on the hallways. You don't hear whistling around. You don't hear the slides were not busy at all. The water slides, like it was definitely a different vibe overall. And just like speaking of vibe, I think overall it's kind of hard to put in words like the vibe on board, but it felt like most of the guests were pretty happy. They enjoyed themselves. You can kind of hear it amongst themselves as well, more than a normal cruise. It felt more like a mature crowd, and I don't really mean like age when I say mature, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So outside of the Lido Marketplace, of course, you have Guy's Burger there and the Blue Iguana Cantina. Main dining room, what time dining did you have, and how was your experience in there?
Yeah, so there's two dining rooms. There's a Renoir, Renoir, if I can pronounce that right. That was reserved for your time dining, and then the Monet, which was assigned dining. So I initially selected your time dining, which was not an issue. So they honored my your time dining, which is on 3 forward. Now I say that because that dining room, the way they did it is they put all the your time dining. They put all the quote unquote non-elite players in the your time dining. And then they put all the quote unquote elite. Well, I don't know if you really quote it, but I guess some of them are officially elite from the casino. The casino players, those they put them in assigned dining. Now, normally on a normal cruise, you would have the same dining menu on both your time dining and assigned dining, but not the case here. The assigned dining had an enhanced dining menu. It was nicer, better, whatever you want to call it, compared to the your time dining. So this somewhat annoyed people because some people were booked on that were elite. They were booked on assigned dining, and then they got they were assigned on the your time. They wanted your time dining, and then they got changed to assigned dining because they had the elite/enhanced menu. And then until they really found out that it was a better menu, then that somewhat upset some people. And it's also kind of weird where if you're an elite, you can't officially change it from your assigned to your time dining. But if you had like friends, like if you were like on the hub app and you had some friends that were your time, and then they can select your name to like have you join you, or if you tell the hostess that you can join them if you want on the your time dining. But you cannot do that if you're your time, because I'm your time non-elite, and they would not let me dine with a friend or friends in the assigned dining because I don't get that enhanced menu. They told me like I have to go talk to the casino host, and the casino host was like, no, sorry. A lot to kind of unpack there, but yeah, it was kind of weird. And for me, it didn't really matter a whole lot. Like, I'm not elite. I go to your time dining. That's what I wanted anyway. Food was just fine. It was just like any other, from my perspective, because I didn't have the enhanced menu. It was fine for your time dining. Service was super quick, and I just remembered now, like one time, I think I went there around 6:25 for your time. When I checked in like at 6:10, I got my table 6:25, and I was trying to catch a 7:30 show with some friends, and I told them I knew it only had about an hour, and I told my waiters, and they're like, don't worry, we'll take care of you. And I had like a lot of food. I had like maybe 2 or 3 appetizers, a couple of entrees, and a dessert, and I was out of there at 6:55, literally 30 minutes, and I was shocked. In general, I think, especially if you're dining by yourself or with 1 or 2 friends, like service was pretty quick, at least on the your time dining side.
Curious about the enhanced menu. What was on that wasn't on your menu in the main dining room?
I did see it. I don't apologize for not saving or remembering exactly, but I know they had like maybe like prime rib or like lobster or like lobster bisque for appetizers, just stuff like that. Stuff like you would, sometimes get on the on Elegant Night or the second Elegant Night would kind of be there. I think on Elegant Night it was the same menu across both on the second Elegant Night, but all the other days were different.
And did you do the steakhouse on this one?
No, I did not.
All right, well, let's talk about the entertainment on this 9-night cruise. How did it stack up for you? Yeah,
entertainment was pretty similar compared to other, I didn't really feel a difference between this being a sea cruise versus not. Obviously, there's less entertainment or less things like entertainment-wise compared to like an Excel class ship, for example. But there was a hypnotist show, which I really enjoyed. I actually went to both of them. There's a 7:30 and 9:30 show. There was a rock show. I didn't do that one. There was like an 80s, 90s show in the theater. That was pretty fun. It was done on the same night as the 80s party on Lido Deck. Of course, there's other stuff like bingo, trivia, and other stuff. Lido Deck parties they had, of course, a sail away party, 80s party. There was a Hawaiian theme that was nice. People would dress up in whatever like Hawaiian clothes, and then a white night party as well. And then Robbie, the cruise director, he did an awesome job with all of them, like all the Lido Deck parties and just all around the ship.
On this sailing here, it was a 9-night cruise. So how many sea days did you have?
It was 5. It was 2 from Miami to Aruba, and then there were 3 sea days back from Curacao to Miami.
Okay. So you had 5 sea days. How was the ship as far as crowds and congestion?
Yeah, it really didn't feel bad at all. I asked one of the security when I was coming back from port, like how many total guests were there, and he said about 2,700. I think it's about 2,980, so close to 3,000 double occupancy. I don't think there were any because it's a 2 per cabin, no kids or whatever. I don't think there's any like third or fourth, or very very little of those at least. So it was it didn't really feel packed for example, on the Lido Deck on sea days. By mid-morning, all the lounge chairs around the pool were taken, but you can find chairs or lounge chairs up those steps between like the Lido pool and like the slides. So yeah, it didn't really feel bad. Again, I mentioned about like how it there just weren't kids like overrunning the pools and the hot tubs. The only really place that was packed, crowded was obviously the casino, like I said, and then the comedy club would also get filled up especially by the time the comedy starts. There wouldn't be like those humongous lines that you'd see like on the Vista or Excel class that would run all the way to the casino. But the comedy club did fill up on most of them, and sometimes it would even be like standing room by the time the show started.
Oh, wow. Okay. Sounds like nothing has changed with the comedy club then.
Yeah, it's popular as ever, as always.
Yeah. The casino, we briefly touched on it because there wasn't a seat to be had, it sounded like. But as you made your way through there, how's the smoke situation?
It's definitely smoky. There's no doubt about it. So casino's on deck 5, and there is a smoking and non-smoking section in the casino, but there's no partition really between them. So the non-smoking section, yeah, definitely less smoky than the smoking section, but you can still smell it. You can also smell cigarettes or whatever, like when you leave the elevators when you get off the elevators on mid deck 5, which is close to the casino, you can immediately smell it. Even sometimes being mid deck 4, you can still smell it as well.
All right. So you leave Miami, 2 days down to Aruba. How was your day there?
It was great. So I packed this cruise with excursions, being solo, and I'm a pretty adventurous guy. I did a lot. So I did 2 excursions in Aruba, 2 in Bonaire, and 1 in Curacao. So in Aruba, I did both with Carnival. First was the North Coast Jeep Safari Tour. It's about 4.5 hours. It was really good. You kind of ride in this back of this open Jeep. There's definitely sections during that 4.5 hours. It's off-roading, very bumpy, like super fun. Got to see a lot of places like the Ayo Rock Formation, Natural Bridge, the Gold Mill Ruins, the Chapel, the Lighthouse. You did also get some beach time as well there in Arashi Beach, which was a nice beach. Came back from there and then immediately went to my next excursion, which was a beginner scuba. There were only 4 of us. So they took us to a resort pool right next to where we actually got on the boat to do the dive. And they gave us all the instructions, practice how to use our scuba gear. We basically practiced underwater in the swimming pool first. And then once everyone was good, we walked to the boat, got on the boat, and then we went to our dive site, which was it's like a British, from my understanding, it was a British oil rig or a tanker ship. Sorry, British oil or tanker ship. I don't know the difference really, but it sunk during World War II by the Germans. So it was pretty neat. Yeah, so that was our day in Aruba. That was my day in Aruba.
There's so many cool wrecks to dive there. I'm glad you have to do one of them because it's just, how deep was it about 30, 40 feet of water?
For us, it was 25 feet.
Okay.
So there was another scuba that was a certified scuba, and there was also about four people or so. So the way they handle it is they put all of us in the same van from the cruise terminal to the dive site or the place where they would board that boat. The people who were certified they went off first on their first dive because they knew what they were doing, they didn't need instruction or any of that. While we as beginners went to the swimming pool to practice. And then by the time we were done, we went to the place where we would dock that same boat. They came back, picked us up, and then we all dove at that same site doing that ship that I mentioned that sunk by the Germans.
What a cool experience. Okay, so then after Aruba, you get back on the ship and you take the small sail over to Bonaire the next day. How was your day there?
Oh, it was great. So normally I would never rent or recommend renting a scooter on any of the islands, especially Cozumel and all those. But I found a local company that does these island tours on a scooter, and I would never rent a scooter on my own, no matter where it is. But being a guided tour, I felt a little bit safer. I contacted them before ahead of time, and they kind of reassured me this is a new fleet of scooters, and they've done this for. I felt safer doing it with them. So it was a 15-minute walk from the ship. And ended up being a private tour, just me and just my guide. My guide was this guy from the Netherlands that lives in Bonaire for the past 4 years. He literally took me everywhere around the island. He didn't leave any stone unturned. It was supposed to be from 9:30 to 1:30. We got back at 4:45. The whole day with him, it was only $120. Food was included. He took me to even his favorite local bar, his favorite restaurant, it was amazing. Got back from that, and then I went on my second excursion because I thought I would have 3 or 4 hours of break between them that I can go back in the ship, relax a bit. But no, because I got back late, I just went straight to my second one, which was a sunset/night snorkel. That was from 5:30 to 8:30 because the ship leaves at 10. So back on board time was 9:30. So I still had a good hour. I loved it. It was a group of about 8 people. And plus the captain and 2 guides. The first part of it was snorkeling right around sunset. So it was kind of cool snorkeling, and then when you look up, you kind of see the sun setting right over the waterline. It's kind of neat. And then got back on the boat, and then he went to a different site, and now now it's pitch dark, and we went in the water with these flashlights, and you kind of like these underwater flashlights or whatever, and then you're like, I guess it attracts some fish, and it was a really cool experience. I wasn't personally scared or anything. I was actually more scared of like the water temperature because it was nighttime and I was worried how cold it would be, but it wasn't cold at all. So yeah, it was a really cool experience.
Yeah, my friend, you are braver than I am. So after this one, you go to Curacao. How was your day there?
I did a non-carnival excursion. I booked direct with a local company that had some good reviews for a 6-hour ATV tour. I didn't know if I would have other people with me or not. It ended up being another private tour for me. So again, just me and my guide off-roading, went to a whole bunch of different places, including some caves. And then there was some about an hour beach time. I forget the name of the beach that we stopped at, but it was good. So yeah, it was a great time and a lot of adventures there.
So you make your way back. You have 3 sea days between Curacao and Port Miami. Anything exciting on those 3 days? We
did have a little bit of a choppy seas, but it really wasn't that bad. Like, yeah, you didn't really hear a lot of like people complaining or throwing up or anything. I do remember though, one night, stayed up with some friends. We were having a good time. Around 2 a.m, we were out a bit. 2 or 3 a.m. We were like on Lido deck around the Serenity area, and all of a sudden you felt this complete change of temperature. It almost like you feel like it dropped like 20 degrees. It almost felt like when you like sit on Lido deck and it's hot, and then you have like the double doors open from the inside, the AC blows out from the inside out. Mm-hmm. It just felt like that. It was some kind of a storm or something that was coming through, and we could spot like lightning out in the distance. And then it started getting really windy at the same time. And then like a crew member comes by, he's like, "I'm sorry to bother you guys, but I'm gonna have to pull all these lounge chairs and everything because there's a storm coming." So that was interesting. But yeah, other than that, from weather-wise, nothing really more exciting than that. You get back to Port Miami. How was your debark? So I chose a self-assist. I just didn't want to stress over putting my bags outside the night before. It went smooth. I just took it kind of chill, went to breakfast. My flight wasn't until 3. So went to breakfast that morning with some friends and debarked the ship somewhere between 8:30 to 9. Getting off the ship, it really didn't take more than a few minutes. There was like no line. But once got off, going through customs, like where you pick up your bag and stuff, whoever wants to pick, whoever didn't do the self-assist, that took maybe a good 20, 30 minutes. It wasn't really that bad. Looked really long, but it didn't really stall. Of course, Miami has the facial recognition. I didn't even need to show my passport. But obviously I had it with me just in case. And then, it was just a matter of just catching an Uber. There's a lot of people out by the terminal. First, my Uber, or actually, I think I ordered Lyft at first. He came. I couldn't even spot where he was parked. He called me, and I'm like, "I can't see you," and it's a big mess. And I'm like, "I'm just going to cancel, pay the $5 fee," and then I just ordered an Uber, and I spotted him right away when he came. So, okay. Being a parent of 2 little ones, do you have what are your thoughts on these adults only sea cruises? I don't have any issues with I enjoyed it. I'm going to be honest. I enjoyed it. I do love also sailing with my kids. I don't like sailing during times when it's like holidays or like peak seasons, like spring break, summer, Thanksgiving, Christmas, whatever. Unfortunately, those are the times when the kids have off school, so it's usually packed with kids. So that's typically, my kids are well behaved, so they're not one of those kids that are overrunning the pools and hot tubs and running down the hallways and all that. Mm-hmm. But it was also nice being on a sailing like this where there weren't any of those issues at all. Any first-time tips to offer someone who might be considering either sailing a sea cruise or Carnival Conquest? So I don't know if they'll be offering these sea cruises again in the future, but if they are, I would recommend if you do get an offer for them, just book it early. Don't wait on it because it did sell out fairly quickly. Another, maybe because I had that experience, but check your cabin for just stuff, issues that I had, the shower temperature, the room temperature. Just make sure everything is in working order. If you have any issues on the first day, just let your cabin steward know. The earlier, the better. And then some of the shows they can be packed like comedy, love and marriage show, especially if you're with a group of people, when all sit together, just try to kind of get there a little early and try to grab some seats. But that's nothing really unique, I would say, to the Conquest. That's just in general. And
looking back, what was the biggest highlight of this cruise for you?
So honestly, and for me, by far, the biggest highlight, it was a group of friends that I made. Unfortunately, it was towards the end of the cruise, around day 6 or 7. We just hung out together everywhere, from the dining room, the comedy shows, theater, trivia, bars, just all over the ship. And we're hoping to kind of all cruise again in the future. Second biggest highlight, I would say, is Bonaire doing that private island tour on that scooter with my guide that just took me everywhere on the island. Yeah, sounds like you had a great cruise with some great excursions there. In closing here, your final thoughts of Carnival Conquest. Yeah, so it's an older ship. Like I said, I think it was started sailing or built in 2002. So I want to say around 23 years ago. It's scheduled for dry dock, I believe, later this year. Yeah, I mean, from the ship itself, like not looking at the itineraries, honestly, personally, and there's just no offense to like anyone who loves the Conquest, it wouldn't be my first choice. Just looking at the ship alone, it wouldn't be my first choice to really book this ship. But did I have a great time on Conquest overall? Yes, I did. But then again, I do on most ships. I mean, who goes on a cruise and doesn't have a good time? There you go. Been talking with Bahar about his 9-night sailing to the ABC Islands from Port Miami. Welcome back, my friend. Great. Glad you had a great time and good talking to you. Thanks for sharing. Thanks so much, Doug. I appreciate it.
All right, Dougie, let's see what we got for you, buddy. Cruise Radio is produced at the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida. Get cruise news, ship reviews, and money-saving tips every Thursday on Cruise Radio. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the show. If you want to help spread the word, give Cruise Radio a 5-star review. Find Cruise Radio where you listen to your favorite podcast or online at cruiseradio.net. I'm your announcer,